Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. So for those who are here for the first time, my name is Shambhavi, and this is Satsang. I'm going to give a little intro. I asked somebody last time we had Satsang, what was his view of the Satsang, because it's not as familiar here as it is on the West Coast where we're from. And he was telling me some things, but then he also said, well, you never really say what it is you do. He said, I've been coming for a while. I still don't really understand what it is you do. So I'm going to give a little introduction. First of all, satsang is probably the most ancient form of spiritual practice. It just means being in reality together. So most of the time when we're running around in our ordinary lives, we're not being very aware. And we're not being very connected. We're in our little iPod, and we have goals, and we're sort of hightailing it towards those goals. And we're only in a state of semi-consciousness a lot of the time. So satsang is a place where you can come and have an experience, or have many experiences, possibly, of just reconnecting with what is of most value to you. And also just reconnecting, period. And that can come in many, many different forms, from just a feeling of relaxation. Of course, unless you hate it, then you won't be relaxed. But then you'll reconnect with how much you hate this kind of thing. But that feeling of relaxation is important. And sometimes in satsang, that can be a special feeling of relaxation. And then many, many other things can happen too. So the idea is that you just get together with other people who, at least if not sharing the same path, at least share a feeling of yearning, and with someone who has done some spiritual practice, and anything can happen. Now, if you'll notice, there were some people that came in and they were being very polite and they sat in the very back of the room. Well, that isn't really the way of satsang. Satsang means being in reality together. It means being in all of reality together, not some limited version of reality. So this is what we're doing most of our day. We're being in a very limited form of reality. We have limited our self-expression. We're living with a lot of habitual emotions of fear and anger and whatever they are. When we come to satsang, there should be an anything goes kind of a feeling. So that if you come in and you want to sit on a comfy cushion and not on the hard floor, waiting for something spiritual to stop happening so you don't interrupt the spiritual activity of the teacher, you should just come and be and express yourselves as you wish. I have been saying this. I've been giving satsang for more than 10 years now, and I have been saying this to people in the United States ever since I started giving satsang. Please make noise. Please get up and sit down. Please come and go. Please do whatever you like. And it really hasn't sunk in. So
I had to say something to Sangeeta Priya, so I stayed back. Checking on the recording.
Okay.
I will not be polite.
Oh, good. Because we wouldn't want that. Anyway, satsang, the typical form of satsang is question and answer. This has to do with the nature of reality that we're being in together. We're in what could be called a call and response reality. We are in a reality that is communicative, and where what we do is answered in some way. So all of the Indian traditions, and especially the one that I'm in, functions all the way through in this mode of call and response. So for instance, the ancient teaching texts from this tradition, which is called Trika Shaivism, are all in the form of a dialogue where a female and a male form of the divine are talking to each other, and one is asking questions and the other is answering. Sometimes it's the woman asking the questions, sometimes it's the male. So it starts there. We have kirtan, which is a singing practice of call and response. We have a mode of relating to the teacher and the teachings that is very welcoming of questions, and where we get sensitized to the call and response nature of the teacher-student relationship. And in our seated practice, there's also a sense of call and response when we do ritual or when we chant mantra, things like that. So this idea of call and response is really important. It is an echo of what our reality is really doing, that communicative aspect. So in satsang, I give some sort of little talk, only because that's what has to happen, I found, in the United States, where if I just sat here quietly, everyone would be very quiet, waiting for me to do something. So, so I'm pandering to you by doing something. And then after the Dharma talk, there'll be just a free-form conversation where you can ask whatever you like. So it can be about me, it can be about our community or this tradition, it can be about your personal life, about your spiritual practice, about highfalutin spiritual ideas that you have kicking around in your head. It really can be about anything. So then we have kirtan, then we do some chanting and singing together. So that's what this is, that's what satsang is. The tradition that I teach in is from North India, largely from Kashmir. And it's one of what are called the direct realization traditions. My secondary tradition, Dzogchen, is also one of these. This is a tradition from Tibet. And then what we would call Zen Buddhism also falls into this category. And the nutshell version of what a direct realization tradition is, it's a set of practices that help you to open your senses so that you can directly perceive with your own body, energy, and mind the nature of yourself and of reality. That's a nutshell. So we work with a teacher, we work with practices like mantra and meditation and Kriya Yoga and what's called Guru Yoga and ritual. We have the idea that we have this huge toolbox and we should use whatever works for us. But the essence of the tradition is that you have already built into you the capacity to perceive, understand, and know the nature of reality of yourself, aka also you could say the nature of God. They're all the same thing. So these are traditions that don't encourage attitudes of belief and faith. They encourage you to find out for yourself. And in fact, this is what is called a Satguru, your main guru, Anandamayi Ma, always taught. She said, find out. You go find out. By doing your practice, by working with the teacher, by opening your senses to this such a profound degree that you're able to perceive your own essence nature and have your experience be from that place rather than from the place of habitual, conventional patterns that we call karma. So that's it in a nutshell. All of the direct realization traditions function pretty much the same way, where they are trying to give you the tools to recognize for yourself who you are. And within those traditions, the teacher is important as I like to say, a kind of appliance. The teacher is there to guide you, of course, but also to help you to have an experience of your own nature, even before you have done very much practice or realized very much. And this is called transmission. So in all of the direct realization traditions, this what is called transmission is very important. In other words, that you have a teacher who has realized at least some fruits of the practice so that they can, in some way or another, give you a kind of a hit of that fruit and an experience of that, a direct experience, so that you know where you're going, so that you have a beacon or an idea what you're looking for when you're finding out for yourself. So that's the other part, is this idea of transmission.
Is transmission a spiritual experience, or is it just sharing information, or how does that usually work?
Mm-hmm. It is an experience.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an experience, not information. In direct realization traditions, we don't make any distinction between spiritual and non-spiritual. Everything that's here is that enlightened consciousness and energy. The divide between spiritual and secular is just a convention that we dispense with. And because we dispense with it, we are trying to use all of our lives, our regular everyday lives, to help us to wake up. And that's a whole other story. But to answer your question, transmission is basically just you entering into the state of the teacher for some period, either a second or a longer period of that. And basically, it's impossible to describe how that happens. It's definitely not, even though we use the word transmission, it doesn't mean that the teacher's giving you anything you don't already have. So somehow through the alchemy of either informal or formal transmission, you are able to discover your own enlightened essence nature through the experience of the teacher. What transmission really means is that through that alchemy of the teacher and the student together, you are able to recognize that you already have that enlightened essence nature from the beginning. So you're really just discovering yourself. Some people say, oh, the teacher's giving you energy or something like that. That's really not true. So somehow, and it could just happen informally too. You're out at the supermarket with the teacher. It's not necessarily something formal, but it can be. Some of the ways that transmission is given formally is like eye to eye, or through touch, or through mantra, or various things. But in general, even just sitting around like this, you can receive transmission. And the other part of it is your condition. It's really the teacher and the student together that make that possible. Your senses, your body, energy, and mind, and we consider the mind to be a sense organ in this tradition. Your body, energy, and mind already have to be a little receptive to this. Everyone will have very different experiences. The problem with talking about this is that, people can get into this attitude that like they're impoverished and they need something that the teacher has that they don't have. And we absolutely don't have that point of view.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between belief or faith and view?
Well, view, there isn't any. View is just a general term. It does come from the Indian and Tibetan traditions. The word in Sanskrit is darshan. It just means, what does your tradition have to say about the basic questions about reality? How do things come to be? And what is a human being? And what is the nature of reality? And what is the nature of God? And what is the point of spiritual practice? And how should you orient yourself when you do practice? Those are view questions. And every tradition, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they all have view, whether they talk about it or not. They all have a view of a person and a view of God and a view of reality and a view of what spirituality is. So in the Tibetan and Indian traditions, it's just more explicit that you receive view teaching so that you have a context for practicing. The question is about belief and faith versus confidence. versus knowing, not versus view. So when we say we believe in something or we have faith in something, we're making a leap. That's why we say leap of faith. We're making a leap. What are we making a leap over? We're making a leap over actually knowing something. Something sounds like what we want to be true, what we yearn to be true, or something is told to us by a person for whom we have a great deal of respect and we have confidence in what they say. So we say, oh, I believe what you say. And then we feel comfortable. It's like having a container for our practice, whatever it is. And that's different. In this tradition, we say, you receive transmission, you practice with the transmission, and then you have confidence in what you discover. So having confidence in what you discover means that you have actually perceived something for yourself and that it is incontrovertible, that you cannot doubt it. It is beyond doubting.
I just wanted to say that sometimes, like, I can really feel that, like what you're talking about, like the transmission, like today, like I can feel it, and I felt it before, but it's not something that I can always, be in touch with. Maybe it's more difficult to feel that when we're not actually with you, like, because I'm far away, but I just wish that I had more of a sense for that.
Yeah.
More often, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I've been practicing now since I was 27. How many years is that? 33 years. And it was only in the last, 7 or 8 years that I felt continuously immersed in that. So there were decades that went by when it was slipping away, coming and slipping away, coming and slipping away. And some of those times were extremely painful. Right? You find yourself immersed in living presence, and then it goes away for like 3 weeks. And it doesn't feel good, But the point is that it's only easier around the teacher for some period of time. I don't know how long that could be. It could be days, weeks, months, or lifetimes. Everybody is in a very different condition. No one's path is the same, and nobody is taking the same amount of time to discover. The fact that you said that you have felt it is that having felt it, you must try to rediscover it in your seated practice. You have a beacon.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to the point of the practice where no one can tell you how to do it. The most important things no one can tell you how to do. You have to sit down. The formal practices that we do can help only to a certain point. But you have to bring all of your awareness and senses and intelligence into the encounter with living presence. If you just sit there and do practice hoping something will happen, well, something will happen, now and then. But a lot more will happen if you are being aware in that primordial way of you're going to meet something, you're investigating something, you're feeling your way into something. So you have that feeling of the transmission. Try to discover it when you're sitting on the cushion. Try to bring it back on. That's what it's for. It's not just to have some cool experience when you're with the teacher. It's for you to use. That's why I say the teacher is an appliance. It's for you to use.
I was just curious, when you talk about transmission, I was kind of imagine it as you expanding your energy field and people kind of being able to be inside of that. But I know that can't be if it's, or maybe it can, if it's happening over live stream like it does. So I don't totally understand.
Well, first of all, live stream means nothing. You can still connect to the transmission even though there's a live stream. And the way that you're describing everything is in very dualistic terms. So there's no way to explain to the satisfaction of someone in the human realm what actually is going on. But the closest thing I can tell you is that what I'm doing when I'm consciously doing transmission, of course, right now I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything that I know of. But, when I'm consciously doing transmission, all I am doing is forgetting that there is any difference between anything. I'm just forgetting any distinction between any of you and me. And that's a subtle process. I can't really describe it. So I'm not, beaming my energy at you or, I don't know. I'm being in what's called Turiya, the fourth state, as much as to the depth that I am capable of. And which, might be the shallow end of the pool. But in any case, I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And and I'm just hoping that you feel included in that.
I was curious about the role of the teacher. We've kind of talked a little bit about that already, but I guess within this tradition, maybe what is a teacher, or how does one become a teacher, or if you could expand on that.
Well, those are those are big questions. So I'll do my best to give you an answer that works. In the direct realization traditions, your relationship with the teacher is said to be your main practice. So it doesn't mean you don't do other things, but relating to the teacher is the way that you start to learn how to follow nature, how to follow that communication that's coming to us from everywhere by paying attention to the subtleties of your relationship with the teacher. You start to subtleize your senses. You start to be able to follow subtle communications. And it's kind of like a training, right? And in that process, you really start to open your heart. And so the teacher is kind of a gateway to opening your senses, opening your heart, so that you can do that with everyone, not just with the teacher. And of course, we have the community too, and that helps you in the same way. But the teacher's a more concentrated experience of that. The teacher's job is basically to guide you in sadhana that they have done and can lead you, all the little highways and byways of spiritual practice. The teacher's job is to show you or give you that beacon of transmission and to help you, to support you in learning how to perceive things for yourself. How one becomes a teacher in this tradition, I'm sure there are many different ways, but Ananda Mayama, my teacher, said, there are teachers who go through lineages, who are powered by their teacher before them to become a teacher. And then she said there are also natural teachers who don't come through lineages. So I'm kind of both, because I originally came through a lineage, but my lineage self-destructed. So I did have formal permission to teach from my teacher. I sort of started out in that lineage way, and now I'm just whatever I am.
On that same note, I was wondering, does a person have to surrender their will to the teacher?
No. What you have to do, if you want to work with a teacher, you have to recognize that teacher is going to show you your real nature. It's going to help you to recognize your real nature. You have to know that in following the instructions of that teacher, you are walking your own path to wisdom. You're not surrendering your will in the sense of, I think this is what the tradition demands, and so I'm going to try to do this. It has to be something that feels really natural, that you actually recognize something in the teacher. You experience in the teacher what you want for yourself. And then you have the natural understanding that following the instructions of the teacher will get you what you want. So that's really the only way to follow the teacher. And if people feel that in a very profound way, then they become superior disciples. And they learn that following is really the way in life 100%. The teacher is a condensation of nature. So this is called Guru Tattva in the Kashmiri tradition. Tattva means element. So guru element is that aspect of all of reality that is guiding you toward discovering your real nature, toward waking up. Because we're kind of dunces, we can't recognize it in all of reality, right? For instance, the Yogin Dattatreya is said to have had 24 gurus, and one of them was a wasp, right? So most of us are not going to recognize wisdom in a wasp and follow a wasp. So we need to have wisdom show up in a form that we can identify with and feel attracted to, and that is another human being. So this is why human beings show up. But the Guru Tattva is just there. So each teacher that has the ability to help you is just an aspect of that Guru Tattva, or an expression of that Guru Tattva. And since that is everywhere, we are receiving instructions from everywhere, but we just can't hear them. When we learn through love and recognition to follow the teacher and listen to the teacher, we are fine-tuning our hearing, and we're learning that following is really the path. That's the royal road. But not just following the teacher, following wisdom wherever we encounter it, in our own wisdom heart, everywhere. But we use the teacher as kind of like what is it called? Something that can make the sound louder for us. Right? A megaphone. Yeah, the teacher's like a megaphone for people who are partially deaf. So we can hear.